By the end of this video, you're going to have all of the information you'll ever need to understand exactly why you or anyone you know has ever gotten involved in a substance abusing lifestyle. And it doesn't matter what that is. It could be alcohol or drugs or food or sex, smoking, vaping. It doesn't matter. All of it. If you've ever loved anyone who's an alcoholic or a drug addict and you want to know why it is, why do they do that to themselves? Or maybe you have a problem with eating or drinking, smoking, whatever the addiction is, whatever the obsessive behavior is, you are finally going to get it now. Because all obsessions begin exactly the same way. And once you get it, and you will, you'll be able to do something about it, or at least be helpful to someone else. Maybe give them this video. It'll become plain. It'll become clear just what to do or what not to do. Because it's so simple. It's simpler than you would ever think it is. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do right now about it. I'm not going to tell you how to fix it, at least not in this video. You'll have to check out some of my other videos or podcasts for that. Right now, I'm centering on understanding causes, because without that, you can never recognize the solution. Even if it were to bite you on the butt, you'd miss it. You'd go to useless solutions. Now, some of you are going to run like hell when you hear this. You'll curse me out and call me crazy. I know that. But if you do, I hope you come back. You might never come back to my videos or my podcasts or my articles. I can't help that, or my books. There's something in people that can pull them away from seeing what they need to see, the uncomfortable realities. But I'm betting that some will take this information to heart. And when you hear what I'm about to tell you, you could have a little aha moment. And that'll confirm everything you really already know about this subject. I'm not kidding. You know it already. It's in you. And I'm hoping that recognition will come out. I'm going to just stir it up a little bit. Maybe. Bring it to the surface. Bring the truth out a little bit. Alcoholics, drug addicts, addicts of everything from heroin to nicotine, Malamars, meatballs, moon pies, it doesn't matter. Everyone with a food fixation, sexaholics, every human being with any obsession that you can think of, out of control, anything. If there's something you can do that you'd rather not do and then you do it anyway, I'm speaking to you or to them, whichever the case may be. Now, we can talk about the details of this, but these are just the fundamentals. You ready? Okay. In summary, this is the short version, the short form. You came into this world. You were born. And there were things in the world that you saw. Things that you weren't equipped for, that made you angry. You didn't manufacture it. The anger didn't originate in you, but it got inside you. It got inside you through the world, through what you saw. You had that inclination. You weren't protected. And once it happened, once it got inside, pain followed. Internal suffering. Anxiety. Now, you can't live that way. So you discovered substances and behaviors that made you feel better, things that numbed that pain. And once you experienced the relief through alcohol, food, drugs, it doesn't matter, anything that takes away the pain will work. Once you started, you couldn't stop, because to stop would mean looking at what you've done. It would mean to face the original agony for having been resentful in the first place. The anxiety would catch up with you. The pain would come back. And so now you can't let go of the anger. You're obliged to keep it up. And feeling better became compulsive. There was no ability to control it. How could you control it? No one's ever shown you how to escape the process. This chain of events called life. That's it. You're enslaved to the chase, to the relief. The relief that things, substances, pleasure-inducing behaviors bring. It could be a joint. It could be a drink. It could be approval. All addicting, because it all works. And it all goes back to anger. You cannot stop, not even if you wanted to. It's just that simple. Now, you can give up anger. You can become immune to resentment. And if you do, all that I just explained to you goes away. The chain of events that we call addiction and abuse, just the chain breaks. You get free. The need for the relief, the obsessive need for substances just falls away and leaves. And then also with it, all the symptoms, the fear, the selfishness, the anxiety, the depression, symptoms, effects, all stemming from resentment. Gone. Poof. Disappear. There's a reverse engineering, and you're brought back to your original innocence. Just like when you were first born. You're born again, if I can borrow an expression. Just by getting free from anger. Okay, now, that's the short form. It's simple. Get rid of anger, and all your problems are answered. But first, let's just make sure we understand what we're dealing with here. If what I said is true, and you shouldn't take my word for it. I'm not a preacher or some guru who wants my word to be taken blindly. That's ridiculous. You need to identify this within yourself by your own realization, not just because I say so. Just see if what I say rings true inside. It won't jive with what you're being told. I get that. Psychologists and scientists and doctors, they haven't got a clue about this. It's beyond their training. It's beyond all intellect. It's metaphysical. You can't study this. But chances are that up till now, you've never wanted to get free of anger because you've been told by these people, by experts, that it's not possible. You can never get free of anger. You've been told to manage anger, that everyone gets angry. Not true. Not true. You can get free of anger. And maybe you'll want to after you watch this video. Now, all I've done is give it to you in a nutshell, but here it is once more, just a little deeper this time, okay? We're all born into the world. Free, clear, uncorrupted, innocent. We get here naively. We've done nothing wrong, guiltless, not perfect beings, not super beings, not superhumans, but still innocent. And then the world that we're born into is full of injustice, is full of cruelty. Religious people call this being born into sin. You aren't a sinner upon arrival. You're born into it. You're immersed into it, dunked like a donut. Like a Dunkin' Donut. We aren't cruel. We aren't unjust. We're clear of these things at first. Not for long, because once we get into the stream of life, into the environment, and into the culture that's around us, that's been contaminated by negative forces, in a negative field of energy, we come under attack there. The energy penetrates us. This is the sin that the religions talk about. And we're susceptible to it. We just aren't a party to it until something happens. We have our first contact. Then it gets inside us and we're contaminated too. Then what's happened to everyone else now happens to us. No one escapes this. We all fall for it. All fall. We're each the same in this regard. It doesn't matter. The difference between us has to do with what happens afterwards, what solutions we pick up to treat the agony, to treat the pained conscience, to put out the fire, to feel better than we deserve to feel. And that's where the differences come between the drug addict and the alcoholic and the overeater and the gambling addict, the sex perverts. The cause is the same. The behaviors, the false solutions, those vary. But they're all doing exactly the same thing, running from conscience that pursues them for doing what? For playing God, for judging, for becoming overwhelmed with anger inside. I said a moment ago that you weren't protected. Well, that's right. The exposure to these cruelties, setting up this weird chain of events in motion, it happens at the hands of your parents, on their watch, under their roof, in their home. You fall for the same resentments, the same anger that they fell to, just by resenting them. And that's how the anger that's already in them gets inside you. It's projected, and you'll do the same thing to your children if you're not careful. Do you understand? It's like electrical current. The first moment you became upset, whenever that was, first with your mother, then with your father, it was traumatic. It was an emotional shock. You were instantly, in that moment, set up, and you had to continue on an angry, emotional path for the rest of your life. Until now, hopefully. It's like a horror movie, isn't it? But this is not fiction. This is real. This is what your religion should have told you. It's what the ministers should have been showing you, the priests. There's negative force in resentment. It feeds the ego, a self that lives on that energy. And as long as we remain lost in the stream of our thinking, lost in our thoughts, We're remaining unaware. We don't know what's going on inside us. But it is going on, like it or not. It goes against your original state of innocence, your baby being, your birthright intuitiveness. And so there's a conflict, there's pain. There's a disquieting sense of error. And it gets stronger the longer you stay in that emotional realm, the longer that ego nourishes itself on anger, on the emotional energy. It grows, it puffs up. It gets stronger. It feels like it's becoming God. You haven't known this was happening. You just go about your daily affairs, stuffing all the unrecognized resentments, suppressing them, distracting yourself. You're believing that the little annoyances that come and go, the little bits of irritation and annoyances and sorenesses that come along, every time someone bothers you, you think they're harmless. You could even take pride in not acting out your stinking thinking. Meanwhile, you're just smoothing them over with pleasures to match. You're feeding your fat ego. You're nourishing something terrible inside. And so you feel guilty, anxious, nervous. And substances work. At first it's foods, then it's the fantasies, daydreaming, sexual fantasies. Teenage boys find pornography. Just think back. Think of the timeline. Food, early sex experiences. Girls find promiscuity. They discover the power they have over boys, over men. That makes them into little goddesses. Makes men into wimps for them. Mama's boys. Anyway, another subject. But as you live a typical life, you eat, you drink, you're exposed to sexuality, to drugs, you discover that these substances, these behaviors, they produce sensations of pleasure, and that they anesthetize the discomfort inside you. And if you need it, you got it. Now you can go on YouTube, right? And you can see what we know about this, about how it all works. It's brain chemistry 101. You don't need an advanced degree. You can get a pretty good overview of the whole thing. It isn't that complicated. Actually, science doesn't really know that much about it. They know some, a little. But there's stuff on drugs. There's stuff on alcohol. You can look it up. Just look at alcohol for 1 second, okay? Just one example. You take a drink, you feel better. Okay, but everyone feels pleasure from a drink, right? A snifter of brandy after a nice meal, a fine wine that's been lovingly prepared with dinner. It's a welcome break. You get a little vacation from a little drink. But not everyone needs it as badly as others. Someone more traumatized, like an alcoholic, he's been nurturing this thing inside. If you use alcohol this way, you come to need the alcohol to feel better. And if it's a donut, same thing. Money, power, whatever it is. And soon you become obsessed with the chase for the relief that these bring, and you begin to compulsively seek it out in order to feel normal. You have no choice. You've lost the power of choice. You have no willpower. You have no will. Another will is in charge. Same with food, with sex, with relationships. You can abuse people like you abuse a ham sandwich. No wonder no one stays with you. You wonder why you can't stay married. Find a husband, find a wife. Now I'm speaking to people with that problem. But no wonder your kids have to be raised in a broken home like you were. You're passing on a terrible legacy. America's families are falling apart exactly this way. England, the UK, same thing. And then to compound it, making matters worse, in the case of foods, especially carbohydrates like alcohol and sugars, once your carbohydrate fixation takes hold, and then you repeat it over and over and over again, eventually you lose the ability to digest the stuff. You just don't metabolize it properly, and it starts to set off a bizarre craving each time. It becomes irresistible. So now you have an obsession, plus you have a physical craving. What a mess. A little sugar, a little alcohol, and you can't stop. No regulation. The body might build up some tolerance, but you can't break it. You're physically craving more, even though your mental obsession has already been satisfied. And if you have this problem, it all began the very first time you ever became upset, became angry or resentful. This can all be reversed. You can reverse engineer your brokenness to become repaired, made whole. It takes an overhaul of psyche that stimulates physical wellness and mental wellness. Now, I promised not to tell you what I think you should do to fix it. But if you want to know, you better look me up and check out my materials, my videos, my books. It's all there. I hold back nothing. So as you can see, alcoholics, addicts of all kinds are not themselves, are they? They're acting on behalf of something residing inside them, something that wants to be God. They don't know it. They don't know they're doing it. They think they're acting on their own accord. They aren't. Forgive them. And if that's you, you can stop hating yourself too. All you have to do is stop making excuses for your judgments. Stop making excuses for your anger and learn to love for once in your life. And all that means is getting free from anger.